Hey, it's Wesley with 22zines, and I'm going to try to film this thing and talk about some zines before work because I am up obnoxiously early, and I just feel like it's a good moment to do so. Basically, the theme of the day is I'm going to show off a couple of zines that I found out in the wild, as I put it. So basically, these are zines that I came across in a little free library out and about, just or like on places where I wasn't necessarily expecting to come across and discover zines. That's sort of the lovely thing about zines, is they can, when you know that you're looking for them, then you find them in the most unexpected places, which I love, and I try to go and pay it forward, put some of my zines out and about too. Anyway, so the first one that I have here, I was in downtown Salem this last weekend going to a class with a friend of mine, and there was some sort of like pop-up art market thing downtown, and a lot of it was sort of not, this is to say nothing of like the quality of the work or anything like that, but it was the stuff that you'd kind of expect to see at art markets, where it's like, fancier prints and like homemade pottery that's like a little bit fancy. The stuff that's basically like a little more polished and expensive because, people have to pay booth fees, and so you have to sell your things at a certain price to basically make that booth fee back. This zine, though, naturally in this in this pop-up art market, I somehow naturally gravitate towards and find like the punkest, scrappiest booth of a bunch of cool queer punks who are all sharing a booth together, and one of them had this table of a bunch of really cool patches, and one zine on the table is like, well, fucking of course. I'm just out and about and I find like the one person who's selling a zine, and so obviously had to get it. And I'm so glad that I did. It makes me really, really happy to know that people are doing this shit out there, and it sort of motivates me to get back out there, get back into sharing zines with the world. Once again, I have been making quite a few zines over this last year, but I've pretty much taken, I've been making small progress here or there, but I've certainly been a lot less active about spreading the word of zines, so to speak, and sharing my own zines. But that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about Punk Ass Cripple Volume 2, Make It Work, which I really fucking love. Basically, as it says on the back, this is an incomplete guide to making your DIY venue more accessible to the disabled people in your scene. I am really happy that I came across this, and I think part of why I do is definitely the story behind it, of just kind of happening across this person who's out there, making it happen and out there doing this work. And like one thing that I've been having a little bit of difficulty with lately personally is just using my voice. I guess I'd put it that way. That sounds so fucking cheesy when I say it out like that, but saying things as I feel them, or not even as I feel them, but just like, I don't know, expressing myself publicly. I think part of it, it's like you're in, so much of my energy has been eaten up by work, and I'm in a public service position where the entire point is that my opinions are not the important part, right? I don't know. So this was just really uplifting and really motivating, and hit me at exactly the right time to see that, zines still are present as a way to say the important things and to make definitive, positive changes, or at least, have the capacity to do that, to help to empower other people to make these definitive positive changes. So anyway, I have a couple of little flags in here. I will link all the zines below as much as possible, or I think I should be able to link all of them. And I love this opening page. It's just this opening line here. It says, "Last time I did a lot of complaining without offering a lot of meaningful solutions." It's like, dude, dear zine author, fucking same. Okay? I feel like, in a way, that's kind of what's been making me feel stuck, is that I have things to say, and either I have some ideas for solutions, but I'm just like automatically dismissing it. It's like, no one's going to do this. Nobody cares. Just feeling really frustrated and kind of beaten down by the world and by life. And so the zine author says here, like, I just needed to get it off my chest this time. I'm going to offer some ways to make your local scenes, specifically the shows, more accessible. And obviously that's great, and I super duper value that and definitely keep doing it. And I love all of the advice in the zine, but also, like, thank you for making a zine to get that shit off your chest, because we all have things that, like, that's how you can move forward with this sort of practical work, is that you have to actually experience and let your emotions out and let your opinions out, or else you can't make any meaningful forward change, right? So I just, I can't wait to follow up with this person and get volume 1, because frankly, that's the kind of shit that, oh, hang on, dog's scratching at the door. Here you go, Milo. There he goes. All right, he's out of here. The sorts of things that I like and that end up making me feel validated and make me feel like happy that other people are doing this are the complaining zines, a lot of complaining without offering meaningful solutions. It's like that is also meaningful, because it is meaningful in a different way. It's validating, and it's mirroring, and it's echoing, and it shows people that they are not alone. But in terms of how to actually solve these problems, this zine does a really great job, and it is quick and succinct and readable, and still just packed with really good information. So, sorry, I gotta... It was raining on Saturday, and, I don't mind a little rain, but I kind of had to have this whole zine, like, just tucked into my jacket so it wouldn't get too wet, and then it got wet anyway, but that's okay. So the whole zine has basically, like, quick list of quick and easy fixes for things that you can do to make your shows more accessible. Some of them are a little bit more involved in that they actually involve building something, which, by the way, this author, I guess I was going to say this for later, but I just think it's so fucking funny. It says, like, if you need, they have this instruction for building a ramp, right? And they say, look, building a ramp is unique to the space that you're putting it in, so I can't exactly give step-by-step instructions, but I'd be happy to help anyone who wants to. Just email me. I'm carpentry and OSHA certified. Like, you are putting your skills and your talent to good work, and it makes me so happy. Oh my God. I hope that you see this video. I'll reach out to you. I'll link it to you. Zine author, Technicolor Teeth, however you'd like to be referred to in this. Anyway, so hang on. Okay, this is one thing that was really important, that really stood out to me about the zine, and it's right at the beginning, and I really appreciate it, which is that the most important thing is to be, and this is important, so for anybody, even whether you're making punk spaces or other kind of spaces, like, this is important for every single space, and this if you take anything from this zine home with you for every space, do this, because this is something everything can do. Everyone can do. Everything can. Oh my God, it is way too early in the morning. The most important and easiest way to be to support accessibility is to be completely transparent about about how accessible a venue is. I don't mean just saying avenue is accessible, because different people have different access needs. Have an accessibility statement where people can check if their specific access needs will be met. And they have sort of this list on the other side about like what constitutes accessibility. You know, is there a wheelchair accessible entrance? And what do you have to do to get to it? That's really important, because a lot of people, a lot of places, and a lot of like, buildings, I'm thinking of like retail, but a lot of places, they'll have an accessible entrance. Yeah, just go out into the alley and crawl up the back, and this way we're like legally not in hot water and we can claim that we're accessible. And it's like, dude, if that is truly the only way that it can work, like you don't have a capacity in the front entrance, then fine. But like, you got to tell people, okay, you got to tell people where they can go and how it's going to work for them. For example, are there flashing lights? Will people be ready? Will there be people ready and willing to help if needed? Are there handrails? Is there a place to stand without getting knocked over? Are there accessible bathrooms? And know what that means to have an accessible bathroom. Is there a place to sit? How wide are the doors? And the most important thing, if you don't have these things, then be transparent. Nothing sucks more than going somewhere that says it's accessible and having it not be. And that is so important, because I think especially nowadays, and also especially in punk spaces, people have accessibility as like an ideal. They want to be accessible. They want to be able to claim that they're accessible, but what does that accessibility actually look like? And if it's not, you know, if there are certain things that are not there, if it's not truly accessible, if it's like, okay, so great, you have a ramp, it's like, that's it. Like, you gotta be honest about what's there. I feel like personally very strongly about this. In general, I'm not someone who needs a lot of, who has a lot of accessibility needs, like physical accessibility needs that aren't already met by just generic construction of like having a roof or whatever. And that's sort of an important point, is that like everybody has accessibility needs. It's just that certain types of certain people who have certain needs get prioritized over others. And I say that in the sense that, like, yeah, most people need to be able to see in general, and that's why buildings have lights in them. Some people need to have brighter lights. Some people need to make sure those lights are not flashing, and those people are not always accommodated because they are outside of the general norm of what society has determined is necessary in a building to be accessible. This is getting into a whole thing here. Basically, yeah, be transparent, because I know that everybody wants to claim, yeah, the space is accessible and, we support all people. And it's like, you can have that support and just recognize, look, because of XYZ constraints, this building is not accessible. You should definitely follow the tips in the zine to continue to make it accessible, to do whatever you can to facilitate greater accessibility for more people, but just be honest about what's there. And like, frankly, I was going to say, as soon as I read that page, I knew this was going to be a good one, but it's like, no, I knew this was going to be a good one, like, before I even saw the cover. Just when I saw that there's a zine on this table full of a whole bunch of patches by, like, a cool punk kid, like, yeah, it's going to be cool. So, anyway, Punk X Cripple Volume 2, make it work. Really love it, and can't wait to read Volume 1. Alrighty, this other one. This one I found in a little free library, like years ago, to be honest. And I've reread it many times. It's also accessible as an article on medium.com, but everyone knows that it's just cooler as a zine. I'll kind of get into that, but this is Don't Want to Be Crazy Rich, a Crazy Rich Asians viewing companion by LS Zines. Now, I read the book Crazy Rich Asians when it first came out in 2013, and I was still a baby. I was 16, I think. And I absolutely loved it. And I continued reading the series as the other two volumes came out. And it's really good. It's really complex. It's really elaborate, and it's really fun to read. I think at the time I didn't realize sort of the intricacies of the book. One of these days I'll have to go reread it. But even if you haven't read it, I think that this zine does a really fantastic job of summarizing it and of talking about the important points. So this zine was sort of written in response, I guess, to the movie Crazy Rich Asians when it came out, and observing the reaction and the reception of that movie, sort of comparing a few of the differences between the book and the movie. But the central point is like analyzing it from the perspective of how it fits into racial naturalization, racial inclusion, because Crazy Rich Asians was sort of hailed, the movie was hailed as being a really groundbreaking foundational movie because it had an all Asian cast and Asian leads, Asian American, and the that's unusual in Hollywood. Not only unusual, but practically non-existent. So what I appreciate about this is that this zine acknowledges that, and acknowledges the complexities of that, while also having meaningful critique about the way in which the movie portrayed the cultures that it was representing, as in sort of the crazy rich culture, and it all takes place in Singapore, and it sort of focuses on how, I'm just not even going to try to summarize it. I knew it was going to be too early for this, and that's why I put all these helpful tabs in. But basically, let's get to it here. Oh my lord, I can't even open pages today. I'm just going to read a couple of quotes, okay? And maybe this will make sense. They're talking about when the movie came out, there were a lot of social media posts and a lot of hashtags and a lot of things that were a lot of commentary and journalism that was specifically advertising the movie and pushing the fact that it was an all-Asian cast as being really important for Asian American representation in film, which is important and really good, and yet it's based on this structure of accepting non-white people and non-white Americans only insofar as they represent a consumer base. I feel like I'm summarizing this really badly. and you can read the entirety of the text of this scene online, so maybe just do that. But I'll at least like quote a couple things where there's this one story that somebody wrote that was sort of talking about different experiences of like, you're 8 years old, your third grade class orders Chinese food and your father delivers it. You are so excited to see your pop in school. He's your hero, but apparently other kids don't think he's so cool. They laugh at him and mimic his accent. You don't want to be Chinese anymore. And it kind of goes through like things, ending with, you're 25 years old. You see a movie with an all-Asian cast at a screening, and for some reason you're crying and you can't stop. You've never seen a cast like this in Hollywood. Everyone is beautiful. You're so happy you're Chinese. Hashtag Crazy Rich Asians. Hashtag representation matters. And the response in this zine is it real? Is it fake? Is it an authentic opinion or paid engagement? Am I proud to be Chinese too? I don't think that question matters. AstroTurf or not, Crazy Rich Asians creators made a compelling argument that their film was connected to the greater goal of Asian American uplift. Mainstream media and the Asian American public accepted it. So, interesting. And they anchor this so well in history. This whole thing it's very well cited. It's anchored in history. It says like, advertising works to facilitate Asians' entry into the market and become visible consumers. Through consumerism, Asian Americans can make claims of legitimacy and natural belonging, shedding their previous roles as forever foreigners. Shankar names this process racial naturalization. Crazy Rich Asians is the ultimate example of racial naturalization and citizenship through consumerism, as exemplified through the film's marketing strategy and plot. For example, one of the characters, Eleanor, has far more money than the average consumer, but she is still using money to make claims of legitimacy and belonging. So, I really... Here's what I appreciate about this zine, is that it is like the original book of Crazy Rich Asians. It is very multifaceted, and it recognizes that racial and ethnic identity and consumerism, capitalism, finances, and class are all interwoven and interlinked in very inextricable ways. And that I think this sort of central point, I guess, the central reminder that there's this phenomenon of this idea that like you can consume your way out of something, or that what the way that minorities in America get respect, quote unquote respect, is through seeing them as active and consumers, people who are worth advertising to. I think I've spent so much time just talking about the content of the zine because I think it's so good and it's so interesting. And really, like, don't listen to me on this shit. Like, listen to the person who actually knows what they're talking about, who actually wrote this zine, who actually, knows what they're doing. I'm trying to summarize it in this video, and I've probably spent more time than it would take you to just read it. So what I want to talk about is how this zine, despite the fact that it is available also digitally as a Medium article style, where it's just, an article that you can read digitally, I think what made this feel really special to me is the fact that it was a physical zine, and the fact that I was able to happen across it in a little free library. I think that, to me, there are ways that I feel like you can happen upon digital zines in certain ways. Maybe I'll talk about it at some point, but like the physical component really made it feel anchored. it sort of drew me to it in the same way that the original Crazy Rich Asians book drew me to it, of happening across it in a bookstore and just, being entranced and grabbed my attention by the cover. And so I think the fact that I found this viewing and reading companion in the same way, of just happening across it and being entranced by it and just being so excited to find this zine out in the wilds, just is what makes it really special for me. And I also think I'm really happy that this has also been turned into a physical zine form, because I think it's really important for the sake of archiving and for the sake of having things available, to have things in multiple formats. I also believe it's really important to have things in digital formats for the sake of archiving, for going from physical to digital as well as digital to physical. But the fact that it is now that it is represented in both formats, I think is really important and really valuable, and it makes me really happy to see. So anyway, Don't Want to Be Crazy Rich, fantastic read. Another one, this one I found in a shop, but it was like a sort of witchy shop. It's like an slightly more radical witchy shop, I suppose, in downtown Salem. And, there's 10 bajillion witchy shops, and you kind of get to see the good ones that actually, like, uplift local artists and have good politics and that sort of thing. But anyway, this one in particular, it's called House Witch, if you're ever in Salem. This is Mother Nature is a Lesbian by B. Oakley, and of Gender Fail. This zine, so, I purchased this zine with money at a store, but it's a store that doesn't normally stock zines where you wouldn't necessarily expect there to be zines there. So I'm counting this as sort of encountering it out in the world. This zine is sort of about not sort of, it is about typography, or basically the creator found this picture of a protest from the 1974 gay pride parade that says Mother Nature is a lesbian in this particular handwriting, this particular font. And they sort of talk about how they've been attracted to protest fonts, protest handwriting, and sort of the typography that's used in protest spheres, and it's really cool. It's really fascinating. So this whole the creator made a digital font, which is free to download, and I'll include it down below, of, sort of, as they describe it, in collaboration with this with this person from 1974. And I think that is really cool. In the sense that they made it that was, heavily influenced and inspired by, trying to represent the spirit of this text in a font, which is just really, really cool. And this represents kind of the story, I guess, of how that happened, and then has, the entire thing is written in this font, and it has on the other side additional, assertions, additional acts of protest, additional, things that they would put on protest signs with this font. And it's just really, it's really beautiful. The way that they describe it. Each protest sign photographed was crystallized in that moment to become emblematic of a precise moment in time. I wish to use the vernacular type extracted from the signs to expand upon that particular moment of protest. I just think it's really beautiful on, the way that it was printed. It's sort of archiving this artistic project that they had of creating this font, and then of printing these onto paper that had been already used in protest. So it's kind of like adding these additional layers to it, and it's just really, it's really beautiful. To be perfectly honest, this is kind of an expensive zine. It's very fancy, but I think it's I'm happy to be supporting this artist and the amazing stuff they do. And this there's this one part that I just kind of want to read out loud. Um, The phrase radical softness as a boundless form of resistance spoke to a type of resistance that is performed quietly, daily, and often by many queer people like myself. Since creating this statement, I have been trying to work out its exact meaning. A radical softness is something that doesn't always get voiced or enacted. It is an internal feeling that drives how we carry ourselves in the world. This softness is the tenderness of our identities that gives us strength in our willingness to survive. Just really beautiful. So what I really love about the scene is, again, it kind of ties into this idea of voice, of, having an opinion and saying it or making a statement. And I think those are the ones that are just really calling out to me right now, and part of why I wanted to make this. And I think the fact that I happened across these zines without meaning to come across them speaks to the power of that action in a way where, I am someone who does actively seek out things like perzines or things like, personal statements, and I want to hear the radical things that people have to say. And yet in these moments, I simply happened to cross them, and I could have been anybody, and anybody could have picked it up, and anybody could see it and read it and hear it and experience this this statement. And I think that just is part of what motivates me to make zines, and it's something that I need to tap back into to continue getting that motivation to share them, because I think sometimes I get into that headspace of like, oh my god, well, who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody's going to listen. And it's like, well, I'm someone who obviously I didn't expect to come across these zines, and yet I care, and I care tremendously, and they have become foundational, transformative pieces in my life. Like, yeah, I think that's really cool. And if you make zines, or if you make art, or if you have something to say, maybe this will inspire you to go and put it out there in one way or another, because you never know who's going to come across it, and how it might change their life. I feel like there was something else I was going to say about the scene, but I can't remember. So we'll just go on to the last one, where I am, pretty darn certain that I have shared this zine before. This one I also got at House, which I think was it the same time as that one? I don't even remember. But it doesn't, but I'm sharing it anyway, because I really, really love it. And I keep returning back to it. This is, Performing Femininity, Trials of Trials of Gender, 1986 through 1996. And it is a collect by, Vin, Caponegro, sorry. And this is just a really beautiful zine in that it is photos of Vin growing up. And, some of them represent femininity in different ways. Very, I kind of don't, I hesitate to just like flip through and show the entire zine. I think you really kind of need to experience it one at a time, if that makes sense, to just sit and look at and engage with each individual photo and kind of put yourself into it. And it just feels really special to hold this and to look through it, and the way that it's all organized and lit, like, it feels really special, and all of it is given this context through this title, and given this meaning through this title. And then at the end is kind of the text portion that's, the commentary on it. I think I actually really like that. It still gives you additional context, but the fact of having it at the end, it kind of allows you to experience the progress and the progression first, and it allows you to bring up your own reflections and your own ideas first, sort of put in this context of this theme, I guess, of the title, but then you're the one who actually views it and then experiences it, reminds you, reminds you of people you know, or experiences that you've had, or just society, and it kind of makes you think, and then you get to the end, and you see what it means to the creator, to the zinester, and I think that's really cool. So this line in particular also really stands out to me because it's something that as a transmasculine person, it really hits home, I guess, or it stands out, or it kind of is something that I haven't necessarily felt a lot myself, but it makes me think. And I'll just read it out to you. I'm still fighting against the idea that my personal rejection of womanhood is rooted in internalized misogyny, while knowing full well that the majority of society will continue to presume my womanhood regardless of my wishes. And that hits a lot because I am transmasculine. I use he, him pronouns. I have not undergone medical transition, nor do I really plan to. I still have tits. I don't bind because it hurts my back. And so out in the world, it's been difficult and it's not always easy to accept, but I more or less have to accept that no one out in the world is going to assume my gender correctly, so this statement of, knowing full well that the majority of society will continue to presume my womanhood regardless of my wishes, that definitely relates and definitely hits home. And it's this first part that kind of makes me think is, I'm still fighting against the idea that my personal rejection of womanhood is rooted in internalized misogyny. Obviously, the fact that they're fighting against this idea means that, they don't really feel that way. They kind of have this, I say obviously, it's like, I guess I'm presuming this about their experience, but, as someone who is also transmasculine and dealing with similar things, I feel like it's something that is suggesting that, that's not where the feelings of gender come from. Like feelings of being trans, at least my feelings and presumably theirs, don't come from a rejection of your assigned gender in the same way. I suppose they can. They absolutely can, if that's how you experience transness. But like for me, and based on this, for them, it seems like it's really based on, my experience. I just have my experience and I have my feelings, and I don't necessarily mean those to be a rejection of anything. It's a rejection of society trying to put me into a box that isn't accounting for my experience, but it's not a rejection of, the feelings that other people have. It's not a rejection of on sort of a conceptual level. I'll put it that way. It's not a rejection of femininity, whatever that means. It's not a rejection of whatever. It's a rejection of womanhood, which is a different experience, a different thing. It's too early in the morning for me to be going all about this. I poured myself a cup of coffee and I haven't had a damn sip this entire video. That's going to have to go back in the microwave, but anyway. The point is, really love this zine. I really love all of these zines. I really love the fact that I live in a world where I can just happen across zines without even meaning to, and that they can have such a great impact, and that I'm able to experience these really strong statements, these really personal statements, these really, this forward activism, this forward critique of society, and just representation of histories that don't get, common attention. And I don't know, it's all really, I'm feeling very sentimental. I'm feeling very, very, like, this is very beautiful. And I am going to promise from this day forward that I'm going to try to use this as motivation, that I'm going to continue to put myself out into the world and continue to put my zines out in the world, so that I can pay it forward for, the next people who may have their lives changed as well by zines that they find out in the world. All right, I should probably get ready for work. Maybe is it even time for me to do that? Who knows? But thanks very much. I will talk to you guys later, and if I make good on my promise, then there will be more zine content to follow. See ya.